This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Okay, it is 6 p.m. I will now call to order the July 14th meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. This meeting is being recorded. This meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission will be conducted in person and simultaneously via remote participation online to the greatest extent possible. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so despite best efforts, we will post on the City of Easthampton website an audio or video recording, transcripts, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Should an interruption occur in which the online meeting ends abruptly, both the in-person and online meetings will not be restarted, and all agenda items will be automatically continued to the next scheduled meeting. Are there any public concerns, non-agenda items? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to public hearings. Our first order of business is a public hearing for a notice of intent filed by the Berkshire Design Group on behalf of the Community Builders, Inc. for a new housing development at 385 Main Street, Mass DEP file number 1510330.
And they have requested a continuance to July 28th, but we have new plans, a new stormwater report, and a new narrative. So that is now just added to your files as of today.
Yeah, great. Do you get a motion to continue?
Motion to continue to July 28th. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Our next item is a notice of intent filed by Chapel Engineering Associates LLC on behalf of Mass DOT for a shared use path along Route 5, map 111-13 and 110-17. Mass DEP file number 1510333. That item was continued to August 11th already, so we will not be discussing it this evening. Our next order of business is a public hearing for a notice of intent filed by Berkshire Design Group on behalf of Norwich Properties LLC for a new housing development at 35 Pleasant Street, map 136, lot 1. This is Mass DEP file number 1510334.
Good evening.
Just reintroduce yourself for the record.
Jeff Squire from the Berkshire Design Group, here on behalf of Norwich Properties. Again, just to summarize this project, it's at 35 Pleasant Street, the home of the former Catholic Church and the Roots Preschool Center, which is on the right side of the page here. Proposal is to retain the church, develop it into residential units, and then build out the remainder of the property with 33 additional residential units in 7 buildings, I believe, total. I think since we last met, just sort of update you, we had a planning board meeting, I think a couple nights after your last hearing. They thought everything in regards to the lighting was great. They were going to incorporate that into the decision. They liked the idea of the additional plantings along the top of the bank as both a way to stabilize that and also provide a barrier and notify folks. We've got a little bit of signage that they asked for, so they were all amenable with those proposals. And then there's obviously, there was a discussion about the condominium documents and just ensuring that, the homeowners association will take responsibility for the ownership and maintenance of, not only the facility, but also the stormwater system, and getting that integrated and being sure that it coordinates with, any orders of condition that you may issue. So they're just, they're apprised of that discussion and need to carry that through and across all the various discussions, or decisions. And then that really left primarily discussion about the stormwater system. We received the comments from the city engineer just prior to our last meeting. We prepared responses to those. had waited until today, because one of the requests in that letter was to conduct some additional test pit information, additional test pits. And we were able to schedule that this morning. And it wasn't until we did those did that, enable us to fill in the, remainder of the responses. We did speak with, so Alan Weiss was the one that was conducting the test pits. Our engineer, who was also a certified soil evaluator, went down to specifically just do infiltration tests at those two locations. And so we did one just outside the existing building underneath the roadway here. And then there was another one in the northeast corner of the site, roughly in this location that we did. Both of them got down to 96, 98 inches without any indication of groundwater. Really good sandy material. I do have the results in here somewhere, but the infiltration tests were done, wasn't quite Title V sand, but it was really good material. So that prompted us to submit the final responses to her. We did get some feedback from her in an email just near the end of the day today, just to summarize, sort of what we found and confirming some of that information. So a couple of just sort of plan updates that were sitting on the back burner waiting until we finalized everything. There were some questions and concerns about soil stability, particularly in places where, that system, where water has the potential to flow over the existing bank. So one of the updates that we included were some stabilized locations where it's really a stabilization mat that gets embedded into the, we've got seed mixture in those locations. It's a combination of lawn and or, conservation mix. So, in these locations, this is all planted. This is just simply embedded into that soil profile to help stabilize that in locations where there might be some potential, overland flow over that bank. If you recall this corner of the site, this gets a little bit steeper in this location, but, right around here, this site comes out and there's sort of a plateau that's a little bit further down gradient. So it's not quite as steep all in that one location. So that was one of the updates that got made as a result of engineering comments. The other was the depth of these infiltration galleys that take our trenches that accept roof water. Question, just confirming separation, the 3-foot separation required for the city stormwater ordinance. There were a couple of them that were deeper than they needed to be. And so we just simply made those a little bit shallower. I think one of her comments that came back at the end of the day today was, so does that mean that those will overflow more often? We made them shallower. So, obviously there's going to be a little bit less volume there. It's not substantial. It is only a portion of the roof water, but the answer was yes, is that if you make those shallower, then those are going to overflow more often. They still meet all of and or exceed all of the requirements in terms of infiltration and water quality, and that was included in our larger response to her questions. And then there were some subtle adjustments to some of the tree plantings, shrub plantings, in particular that were in conflict with these trenches. So that was the other update that got made. That's the quantity all stayed the same. There have been a lot of questions about what happens if this entire system completely fails. What I tried to do here is just sort of highlight the low portions of the site. This is down, 178 is sort of the low, the lowest elevation that we get to on the site, beyond the hillside or exclusive of the hillside. These are those locations that are all, trapped in this. To overflow needs to get, a minimum of 6 inches higher. There's some potential for overflow in this direction, some potential for overflow in this direction, and then similarly on the north side of the site in this direction and off to the lower right here. So this this is a catastrophic event, and if that porous system is 100% compromised, would be this is where these puddles of water would show up. But that's a pretty drastic instance and failure in all our research and experience. I haven't seen a system that has failed 100%. So just keeping that in perspective. And I think I had provided maybe some additional information specific to nutrient removal. There were some questions about that. There was a study from the EPA that was that analyzed that, as well as the UNH Storm Center. I think I subsequently found another study that was done by UConn, and potentially one other one that analyzed the amount of nutrient removal that porous asphalt achieves. Those additional test pits, infiltration tests that were done, comments to DEP or DPW, and these latest updates with respect to the soil stabilization were really the the most current information. This is these are our comments back to city DPW. Again, just meeting the 3-foot water separation requirement with these additional test pits, confirming that the infiltration trenches specific to the roof water, noted that they were reduced to 1 foot in depth, 20 feet. So, talked about the standards and meeting the still meeting the stormwater requirements with that separation. Infiltration management over time. So just speaking to the O&M plan, need for a long-term, that is a critical part of this stormwater system. As it is with any other one. That's, one of the things that we've talked about in the office is this is really no different than what you would typically see is a conventional stormwater system that has a treatment chamber that then overflows to a subsurface system. The functionality and longevity of that system is solely dependent on the maintenance program for that treatment chamber. If that is filled and not maintained, all that sediment just goes right into the system, and that is, that's what causes that system to fail. So it's just as critical with this as it is with a more conventional system that you would see like that. But it's just to emphasize that that's part of part of what we recognize needs to be carried through the homeowners association and in the order. So we completely agree with that. Infiltration trenches. This was just speaking with the slope stabilization that we provided that I noted about earlier. Plantings relation to those trenches was updated. And then there were a couple of extraneous details that were on the sheets relative to a catch basin and drain manholes that actually aren't necessary, obviously, on this. And then, again, just slope stabilization and turf reinforced matting that we were proposing were the responses to the comments that went to the engineering department this morning. So I don't think, and then this was something that we developed at the end of the day today, just because it was also a request to the planning board to identify locations where snow could potentially be stored. Again, it's as with any storm event, if it exceeds the capacity of the site, they just need to haul it out, and that's what they do. It may fit on a sidewalk if it's a huge storm, or block a portion of a driveway, but that's their responsibility to begin hauling that out as soon as crews are available, as with any other site. But this, there's a fair amount of area on the site to push snow. In at least, several of the more recent events that we've had. So just adding that to the record. All I've got for updates.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
We obviously haven't had a chance to review those response comments or the new information yet, so we'll need to do that since that didn't come in until this afternoon. A couple of questions. From your description just now, it sounds to me like the core question coming from engineering and that we raised here about slope stability relative to breakout of infiltrated water has not been addressed. You only addressed surface flows.
We did relocate some of the infiltration trenches a little bit further back.
Is everything more than 50 feet from the slope now?
It's not 50 feet, no.
Okay, so that's still an open question then, because that's what the stormwater handbook references. So actually we are currently going through
very similar question with them on an appeal in Northampton. And so, and I don't remember the exact language. If I had it in front of me, I could read it. But so the requirement and the interpretation we asked DEP is that one interpretation is that it's a strict 50-foot horizontal measurement from any infiltration galley, any infiltration structure to any slope greater than 15%. The interpretation that we our interpretation that we've asked them to clarify, and they haven't disagreed yet, is that and this is in consulting with VHB and a couple of other civil engineers that have come across this in other instances, is the 15, see if I can explain this, that the starting at the top of the infiltration structure, so in these cases, these stone trenches, the top of that stone, you project out at a 15-degree slope. And if that, because that's where the breakout would occur with the water stored in that structure. So if you can picture a structure, we're taking a diagonal from the top of that storage area at a slope of 15% out. And if that line breaks out anywhere in a slope closer than 50 feet, then we've got to address that. But it doesn't make any sense that it would be a strict 50-foot horizontal offset from any structure if the consideration is breakout, because it's all relative to that structure, if that makes sense.
I think that makes sense probably in ideal conditions, but if you have some sort of lateral perching layer that's going to force water to move.
And so, but then that was the purpose of doing those infiltration tests today, is to make sure that there is nothing that would prevent infiltration at a rapid rate on this site.
I'm more concerned about perching that's going to cause water to move laterally, not over fast infiltration.
Yeah.
So I don't think we have any evidence that you're not going to have that situation. We have weird soils and weird slopes along areas like this in town. And this has been an issue before with slope collapses. We don't want to see that here.
Sure. So I guess I'm just trying to understand exactly what we need to provide and ensure. If it's that that any infiltration system is more than 50 feet away from the top of that slope, we can't, not on the site.
Then I think we need some additional analysis of the slope to know that we don't have a concern at this particular location, because there are certainly a lot of locations in the city where we would have a concern.
Okay. That's going to take a pretty substantial geotechnical study to be done. I don't know any other way to do that, I guess. I'm open to other suggestions, or if there's something that the commission would accept, but I don't, at least from my experience, I don't know, we as civil engineers wouldn't have that ability to make judgment about slope stability as it relates to, the soil, bearing capacity and fluidity and all that. That's not in our realm. So that would require a pretty substantial geotechnical investigation. I
would assume so.
I guess I'm sure there's, and that's months away.
Anybody else have a different preference to rely on?
This is our fourth hearing. We obviously, our structural engineers involved with the building locations. With any project like this, there's going to be an intertwining of disciplines, because nobody wants this to fail, obviously. That would be catastrophic for everybody. And so I can assure you that, at least from the owner standpoint, they're taking, any precautions they can to reduce their risk, because they certainly don't want, that would not be good for anybody. But I just know that, they need to at least advance the process, and the planning board isn't going to do anything until this meeting is closed. And so if we're already, I think, 2 months into this now. It's our fourth hearing. So, but now that'll shoot the whole construction, I think. But,
Our
just,
concern, Jeff, is not with your project timeline as much as making sure that we're upholding our obligations.
I completely understand.
And this question was raised multiple meetings ago.
And it was, and we talked about, what we needed to do, and it was waiting for engineer comments. At least that was my understanding, is that we were waiting for engineering comments. We were waiting for, additional test pit information. We were waiting for, some of the other updates that, slope stabilization comments. And so nutrient, we've been trying to provide information as it's been requested, all the porous asphalt data. I don't recall that there was ever a specific request for a geotechnical study of this project.
We have raised the question about the potential for breakout and being less than 50 feet away from the slope. It is on the applicant to provide whatever information is necessary to refute that standard. And I don't think we've seen anything that does that yet. It sounds like you may have some other ideas from what you're talking to other engineers about, but we haven't seen that in writing to my knowledge. Maybe it's in what came in new today, but that came in new today and none of us have looked at it yet.
We'll note too that the city engineer noted in this was her quick email to BDG earlier today from the comments that came in today. Just that this piece about slopes, she highlighted the slope stability in this section as well.
Right. I knew that would be a question from the engineer as well.
The other thing I just wanted to note around the question about perching groundwater, she highlighted that the two new test pits are substantially lower than a test pit close by, just showing some variability on the site, some variability of conditions, can show where those are located. So test pit 6 and 7 are the new ones that came in both over groundwater not found over 96 inches down, but test pit 4 showed groundwater at 42 inches down.
And so that would indicate that the groundwater is shallower, closer to the slope.
On this side of it. And then the test pit locations we have over here show 68 inches down. And this one's deeper, greater than 82.
Yeah, I mean, it is it is a concern. There are places where there are unstable slopes, like along Emerald Place, along the lower along the pond there. There's the sidewalk. If you look at it, it's like drops every so often, and the city keeps shimming the sidewalk up because the whole slope is gradually sliding. I think one of the stormwater basins behind the Pleasant Street Mills had a slope failure, like right along the side of that pond at one point. There was a pretty big erosional failure along the Manhattan River behind residents on Loudville Road. That could have just been the river erosion and not like a geotechnical slope stability issue. And then there have been other like more erosion type things that we've been talking about, like behind the Loudville condos. And that was a big debate during permitting of that over slope stability also. And they didn't want to do a geotechnical analysis either. And I forget where we ended up, if we had a condition related to that or not. But, adding water and changing the loading on the top of a pretty steep slope is just a concern for the stability of slope. And like, I don't know, I don't really think the survey that we have shows like exactly what the slope. I don't think it has contour going down the slope, so I don't know what the slope. I don't know what the slope angle is or what the vertical elevation change between. Oh, and actually, that's ignoring like the dingles that move progressively up, like behind the, Northampton Street site has had dingles that have moved quickly. My neighborhood has a dingle pointing at my neighbor's house that's been stable for a while, but who knows how long it will be stable for. But sometimes you go out to see these sites and they move very quickly once something upsets them. So, like we're here to protect the wetlands, make sure that things are done properly. We would not want to see another slope start to have issues and then have to go and do some kind of, emergency treatment thing or enforcement thing or whatever. So that's where we're coming from. Like if you have some kind of engineer who looks at it and says, like the additional water and load on the slope, won't adversely impact the slope because X, Y, or Z. I guess that's one thing, but we don't really know how steep the slope is now, other than just looking at it and saying it's steep, and we don't really know how high it is now. I don't think. So I think when I look at that, I'm not looking at the language of that stormwater manual criteria. I look at it like a screening tool, like if you're closer than this distance, then it takes more thought, it's about not causing problems, but it's about like helping us to identify when there's something that needs another look. So, I think that's the concern here. Like if somebody came and was like, oh, it's a 3-to-1 slope and it's 20 feet high, then that's different than if it's a 1.8-to-1 slope and it's 25 feet or 30 feet high or something like that. I might be more comfortable in the former case. As an engineer myself, not a geotechnical engineer. In the latter case, I wouldn't be that comfortable. Right now I don't have information to look at.
Do we have, Jeff, with the changes that were made to the stormwater system, an updated H&H report and updated calcs?
No, there wasn't an updated stormwater report that we produced for that.
Okay, so
No.
that's something that we're probably going to need also, because it sounds like you've changed the volumes, you've done some analysis of where the overflow is going to be. I assume you've looked at what the velocities over those areas are going to be to understand erosion risk.
Yeah.
We're going to want to see all of that. I also, related to those overflow areas, it looked like you were showing those same areas as potential snow storage. That seems like it could be a problem if that's the low point that your water wants to escape from. So I'm curious if that was considered in terms of how your whole system may function if something starts to break down and it isn't functioning properly.
So some of the storage areas are where those overflows are.
Mm-hmm.
And the concern is that those won't allow water to exit this site then, or what?
Right, yeah, it's the same principle as when you see the catch basin clogged with snow, and
Yeah.
so the water can't drain where it wants to
Right.
drain.
I mean, it'll be a standing puddle of water there if water can't get out and it's completely trapped. Like I said, I think it's a pretty unlikely scenario given the availability of, other places for water to infiltrate. But it's, I mean, that's if everything is ponding like that, then, and every overflow is blocked, then yeah, there'll be holes of water, but that would be, I think, pretty true for anywhere. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the likelihood of there being a snow event, there being large piles of snow blocking all of that, and then then it raining or thawing quick enough to prevent water from going anywhere, I guess is what my, I'm trying to understand the likelihood of that. It's might be different than a catch basin freezing, or yeah, I mean, it would.
Well, the catch basin freezes, DPW's out there shoveling the snow off of them so they can drain. So I don't know why you would put snow in the way of where you would need it to drain.
But
it seems like a bit of an oversight.
No, I guess I'm saying that that's assuming that there's a giant pile of frozen snow there when you need the water to overflow. And I don't anticipate that the water would need to overflow because presumably they've plowed that, all that snow from the road. That's why there would be piles there. So that's where the water would infiltrate. That's what.
So is the water going to flow from the snow storage areas back onto the road?
Some of it might, sure. Yep.
And not just pool around the snow piles?
I mean, we've got positive pitch, in all directions in various places. So depending on where the snow pile is, if it's up, against the church side, obviously it'll flow back into the road. The high points between some of the buildings, some will flow off to the, upper left-hand corner, and some would flow overland back into the driveways and the roadway. But it's sort of varies depending on where those are.
And then back to, you had given us some drawings last time of the degraded area and proposed restoration areas. I had a question about, I'm still having a bit of a hard time interpreting the tally of some of your numbers in places. I think for the most part, I'm following it. It seems like the area below the outfall is a big part of what you're counting as the restoration for moving further into the riverfront area.
I don't think we're qualifying that as work as being closer to the riverfront. I guess that's always there's areas that are being restored, like that gully. We didn't necessarily qualify that as part of the work associated with the project specifically. It's a restoration measure. So there's no way to restore that without. So I don't know whether you have any guidance on that, but there'd be no way to restore that without doing work closer to the river, if that makes sense.
You have about 2,400 square feet of area that is newly degraded closer to the river, correct?
That is newly degraded. No.
Not down in the gully, like where the buildings and where the buildings push
proposed
past.
new degraded,
Okay.
2,400
Yes,
square feet.
this proposed new degraded. Yes. Yep.
Okay, and then there's another place where you appear to call out, I think 2,700 square feet of that gully as part of what you're counting as the restoration to make up for that 2,400 square feet.
Can you slide that up a little?
So yeah, so there's existing degraded area that is 2,700 square feet. In the previous slide, or in that same information that we provided, we had included a total existing degraded area of 5,600 square feet, which included a small portion of that gully. We only measured 50 feet back, 55 feet back from, so this upper image is what we had said was part of that existing degraded area.
So for the purposes of your restoration 1-to-1 tally, I'm not certain that you can count that gully because degraded area is defined as impervious surfaces from existing structures or pavement, absence of topsoil, junkyards, or abandoned dumping grounds. So I think that the restoration area one-to-one tally needs to be based on the previously impervious areas of the site. And I can't tell from your numbers if you meet that, if you don't count the gully.
So I guess what I would say is I would think, and this is, that the only difference that would make is that the existing degraded area would go down. Our proposed improvements, which would include, like a portion of that we're supposed to serve, and I'm just trying to refresh my memory on these numbers. Yeah, I guess I'd have to do the math again, but I know we've had an excess of a combination of excess of mitigation and restoration. So we have to do the math and take out, whatever, and all of that gully.
And how are you defining restoration versus mitigation?
So restorations at a 1-to-1 ratio, obviously. And so areas that we are calling restoration are areas that are currently degraded. So parking lot, paved areas, buildings, a bunch of that is existing degraded area that we are restoring with vegetation. So those are not, they're part of the project. It's in terms of, building the site, but those are all going to be vegetated areas that are being restored with conservation mix or other plants. So that's what we're calling restoration. Everything else that we're doing is mitigation, which would be a 2-to-1 ratio.
So the restoration number is all within existing paved area.
Restoration, yes. Paving or building. Substantial portion of the garage, yep. Associated parking lot.
And then where are the additional mitigation areas? I don't think those are pulled out in your drawing.
So it was all the plantings that we're doing along the top edge, everything that's in that yellow, crosshatch on the screen there is everything outside of, everything beyond those building footprints is going to be, we've got a conservation mix, a number of shrubs along the top of the bank.
But some of that is happening in the formerly impervious areas. So I'm not seeing what you're counting where. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I'm just trying to figure out a different way I was hoping these images explain that. So this what's up now is an overlay of the proposed work on what we are considering existing degraded area. So we can take out that 2,700 or whatever square feet associated with the gully, if that's, the decision, that's fine. So the rest of that is either parking lot or existing garage. That is all being planted and seeded with, conservation, conservation seed mix ground cover. Everything else outside of that is also of the same planting intent that you see hatched and noted on here. Some of it is temporary disturbance, some is permanent disturbance. And so that was what the other drawing was trying to parse apart, is showing what areas were previously disturbed and are being restored. It's a very complicated math problem. I appreciate it. I'm trying to show that all in a plan. Yeah, so that next one showed what we were, or the one that you had previously.
So I guess, for instance, on the far left, above buildings 9, 10, and 11 there.
Right.
There's a bunch of plantings shown. You're counting that as,
Mitigation.
but what's there now?
There's a hedgerow, there's that arborvitae hedgerow. And then it drops off. There's no vegetation under that, and there isn't much along the top of the hillside because it's pretty shaded, and then it just drops off.
So there's not vegetation there now that's going to be disturbed as part of construction.
Just the hedgerow. Yeah, there's no vegetation that we're taking down along the top of the bank.
Would you say that's accurate for folks who've been?
The hedgerow is the dominant up there, and the hedgerow is the dominant piece of vegetation. And then it is pretty,
Yeah, not what is growing underneath that.
yeah,
It's pretty shaded, like.
Okay. It looks in the aerial like you're building into wooded areas with those buildings. So I'm just trying to understand if it's really going to be an improvement that adds on to just restoring to what it was before you came in and started building.
There's a path width, you can walk behind the hedge without falling off the top of the bank.
Mhm.
So there's some distance there. There's the distance from the hedge, and then there's a little path behind it, but it's a clear, pathway you can walk. There's no vegetation there. As soon as you get to the top of the bank and further down, then that's where, all the trees and everything start growing.
my memory is that the shade that you see like on the aerial is coming from trees that are further down the slope.
Okay.
Let's see if I have any good images. So here's the hedge. And that's arborvitae.
Come down. Bench on the left. Yep.
So I think these trees are on the other side of it. Just looking back at the arborvitae again. This is the edge of building. I think this is the edge of one of the corners of one of the buildings.
Okay.
I mean, there's some undergrowth in there.
Not substantial.
That's what I recall. Is that on the other side of this one? The other side of the site.
All right. So I think then it sounds like we just need to see those calculations updated and clarified so we can confirm that everything's in order there. Other questions from the commission?
Can you bring up the stormwater ordinance and the nutrient removal standards for redevelopment projects?
Yeah. Hmm.
I think if you search for redevelopment projects, it pops up. What does it say right at the beginning?
Average annual pollutant removal equivalent to 80% of the average annual post-construction load of TSS related to the total post-construction impervious area on site and 50% of the average annual load of total phosphorus.
Okay, so in the, and I'm asking because I don't know the answer. I'm not asking because I'm leading anybody anywhere. In the research that you've done, Jeff, are we hitting the thinking of the phosphorus?
Phosphorus in particular.
Yeah.
I would have to look more closely at exactly what those said. I know.
Yep.
I know they, they met or exceeded most of the rates, but I'd have to, just clarify exactly which study said what. They're all slightly different.
Yep.
I mean, you shared this little clip, Jeff. You
Yep.
might remember the
This is from
citation.
the EPA, study. Just page of zones.
You been big in that?
Um, 65.
What was the date on that?
That was, I want to say that one was done in the 90s. I don't remember the exact date. Yeah, I have to pull up the citations.
Yeah, that one was from a stormwater technology fact sheet dated September 1999. Published by the EPA.
Okay, I guess those are the things that I really want to just make sure are buttoned up are making sure we meet the stormwater redevelopment standards from the ordinance for, ordinance is making us do. Making sure the steep slope infiltration thing is addressed, and then making sure there's a robust mechanism in place to make sure that porous pavement areas stay porous pavement when they are replaced, repaired, whatever.
Others?
So I had written up some questions and requests on demolition and erosion control notes and submitted it to everyone and Jeff. Do we want to look at that or just let him go over it and answer them?
I think the one that maybe is worth a larger conversation is about for the riverfront restoration area, where that ends up being and what that ends up being, if the commission will want, how the commission will choose to handle like a monitoring requirement. Will it be treated as like a wetland replication area where we'll want monitoring reports of plantings, or is it in kind of a different category? Commissioner
Restoration areas?
Commissioner August and I were discussing that, because I think the commission's purview in terms of what they can require for the success of plantings varies when we're dealing with replication versus, other plantings on a site that are less of a sensitive area. And I see riverfront restoration as kind of almost an in-between zone. We're not looking maybe as tightly as we would be in replication, but it's different than just like a part of an overall planting plan, like we reviewed with New City.
Yeah, I think the key factor is that for redevelopment of riverfront, the first standard is that you have to have an improvement over existing conditions. And so knowing that since those plantings are a big part of that improvement, I think making sure that those succeed is critical to whether we've met the intent of the act. And so I don't know if we have a good reference in another project for how to structure that in the order. But I do think there needs to be some longer term monitoring similar to what we would have for replication.
Did we do it for 65 Love Field? That was riverfront restoration area, right?
Which one's 65 Love Field?
That's the house that's like across from the bike path
Oh,
with all of the overlapping resource areas. But I believe that was a, here, I'm gonna pull it up.
I don't think we had monitoring that went up for that one with that one. I mean, that one is probably a good example though of something that's appropriate. If I'm remembering correctly.
2 seasons.
Were they expanding in the riverfront, or was that the tear down and rebuild of the same footprint?
I think it was that, but I think he had maybe a carport go closer. There was something small. Let me see what I can pull up. But I do think there was some monitoring component of it because the commission issued a partial COC.
Yes, that might be a good.
Yeah. 2 full growing seasons after the year of construction of the mitigation area. So he maybe had a mitigation area but not a restoration area. So I couldn't solve it.
That seems like a fair process to mimic.
Okay.
For the snow storage, if there's sand or salt, is that another concern if it's up in those areas around 9, 10, and 11?
Well, sand would be strictly forbidden because of the porous pavement. It would ruin it.
Any sort of de-ice or
Yeah,
salt?
I don't think we have any specifics in our stormwater ordinance around chloride, do we? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
It may be coming in the future, but there's not currently any compulsion.
Yeah. Okay.
Others?
It's just the slopes, stability issue. That's probably the biggest thing. I think the rest of these things can be dealt with
Wasn't there
easily.
a question about not the culvert, the place where the pipe comes out right now and what's gonna be put in here to help stabilize that area? I mean, you talked about just putting roof up in there, but I think there was a question around.
I think I understood from Ava that there was some additional information submitted today on that we haven't had a chance to look at yet.
And yes, yeah, provided to the DPW and that, right, yes. And, right.
Okay, so hopefully that satisfies.
Yeah, it's this piece. Which there's details of in the new information that came today.
Okay,
This is without Wallace.
So, yeah, stabilization map that we get provided details on.
okay. And that is, I'm not familiar with that TRM that's appropriate for a situation like
Yeah,
this where you
that's
have steep
exactly what-
erosion and.
That's exactly what it was, intended to be. We did a little bit of research on different products. This one seemed to be one that, at least got pretty good, reviews on just overall installation. It's ability to stabilize slopes. It's sort of non-invasiveness and flexibility. Fastened and stapled essentially into the hillside various ways.
Do you folks think that the shape of the gully here as it stands currently is appropriate to leave as is and simply cover over rather than build back out?
It's pretty uneven. Something's gonna need, has to be smoothed out and to have those rolls kind of work in there, I would think.
Are you anticipating bringing in material, Jeff, to rebuild
gully?
what's been lost?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely part of the plan. I don't know. I know it was part of a comment, in one of the previous hearings is that I don't know how to quantify that. I would certainly be open to a condition that, when that stabilization or restoration happens, that we meet with the commissioner or something. But I envision that they'll dump a number of loads of, soil in there to smooth that out and blend it into, the existing, side slopes. I don't know how many cubic yards that is and how far down slope to take that. It's, obviously we want to make sure that it's stable and that there's enough soil to cover all the rocks and stuff that have fallen to the bottom and transition that from, the work that's happening on the site. But I don't have an exact quantity for that. So I don't know how to, I'm open to a condition, but, we obviously bring in enough fill to restore that back to what might have been existing conditions. I don't know what that was, but.
But we don't have any grading to show what that's gonna look like in the end.
No, because that's just that. I don't know how far to take that. I don't know. I mean, does the commission, do you want us to go 50 feet down the hill? Do we want to go, do we just need to restore the outlet of the pipe area? There was a question that, like I asked a couple of meetings ago, just that I didn't know how to quantify that. So it was a question to you all as to how, what you think is appropriate. We're happy to do whatever, but I just don't know what that is, because it could be a lot, but I just don't know how far to take that downhill. So that was a question. So I don't know, part of me was thinking if there's a way to condition it so that there's a field call or something when they go to restore it, or how, it'll be covered with the map, obviously, but I don't know. Yeah, just how far.
It's a little hard for us to approve a design for something you're not actually showing us. So we can do it that way, but I think it's going to be more in your best interest to have the discussion now rather than to have it in the field when we're saying, no, that doesn't work, keep going, and you have no way of quantifying what that's going to look like or what the cost is going to be.
Okay, well, I'm happy to, if you want to take a distance from that back of the garage that we need to go to, then we can blend all that in. I guess that's fine. I don't have any issue doing that. I just don't know.
It's really not our job to tell you what your design should be.
I understand. I guess I don't know.
We don't know this material or this detail, so we need to know from you, what are you proposing that's going to work with what you're proposing for the surface?
We need a 1-to-1 slope to put this material on, which to me seems too steep in that existing situation, given what's happened there. So I guess I don't know what is then appropriate, because it's going to be in excess of, whatever the manufacturer says. So if, I guess I'm not trying to be difficult. I was trying to get some information from you all as to how far you think we should take that down the slope, and then that's what we can grade out. But this is, it's a big eroded gully, so we could go 100 feet down the hill, we could go, 25 feet down the hill, and, we could make either of those work. Obviously it's getting the further down to go is more invasive to some extent. We're not directing stormwater with any of the design in the future at this particular location. So we don't anticipate that there's going to be, any overland flows or other channelized flows that are directed here. So the hope is that, by making those other locations, that we have an opportunity to restore this to whatever seems appropriate. And I just don't know what that answer is. I guess is just what's appropriate here.
Have you followed the gully down to like
Oh, yeah.
how
I've
far
gone
is it?
halfway down the hill.
Halfway to the river, you mean?
Not necessarily, because it's not, the gully drops off and then it levels out and then it continues to the river. But I've gone down as far as I sort of had stable footing, but it's still, there's still a gully there.
So how many feet down is it level?
at the bottom of the hill.
Ish.
Oh, I don't know, 125 feet, 150 feet.
Is there a point at which this starts to map as wetland based on vegetation?
I would imagine at the base of the hill where the floodplain is, but we didn't do any wetlands down there. But I would imagine that would coincide with, you know, it flattens out pretty quickly at the bottom of the base of the hill, which coincides with floodplain and a number of other things, and sort of roughly where the mapped mass mapper shows it.
I know my opinion is you don't have to stabilize it for the sole purpose of putting it back like it may have been at one point. For me, it would be just remove the artificial debris and then, you know, stabilize it so that it's stable for building purposes and you don't have to worry about it progressing, like whatever that may be.
You know, taking equipment down there's going to be exciting too. So you have to reach from the top as far as you can reach.
Well, and so, right, and so the thought was that from that existing garage pad that you could, you know, you could dump topsoil in there and fill it. You'd have to compact it. There's going to be, you know, a fair amount of handwork involved, obviously, and some stabilization. But I didn't know, you know, I was looking for input from you all as to, you know, how far we take that, or it's, you know, if it's just around that immediate, you know, sort of upslope area where the most damage is visible, then, you know, that's certainly fine. And, you know, we can do our best to show something on a grading plan. Those stuff.
If you drop soil in from the top, what about the surface treatment is going to keep that soil from coming out the bottom? If you only go so far.
So there's that mat that we were looking at previously as vegetative cover on the surface. And there's water coming out the toilet. I don't know
No, the
why.
soil, what's gonna hold, if your
Yeah.
slope is this long and you're only gonna fill the top part, how are you gonna keep the soil? So here's your fabric.
Yeah.
Here's your existing slope. You've got soil in between. What's gonna keep that from sliding down in this method? Because like we've seen this done elsewhere with soil lifts where they're fully wrapped, but that's not what you're proposing. So what's gonna, if we stop at some point, what keeps the soil from just falling out the open end?
There's kind of a lift at the top.
I guess.
That it's stapled down, so that could help hold the whole mat in place.
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure. Trying to understand how the only way that would happen is if that soil is so saturated that it would luff off like that. I mean, there's no stormwater, there's no flows being directed to it. So it would simply be a function of, you know, it being so saturated that it would slough off. That
Or any new soil that's added has to be covered with that mat.
Once construction is complete as well, right?
Right.
This system is planned to be used through all
Correct.
phases of construction.
Mhm.
Well, there's gravity.
what?
There's gravity. I mean.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess I'm trying to understand why the soil would do that. Like what would cause it to erode down the hill if there wasn't, you know, where that potential would come from. I'm not asking to be, you know, argumentative. I'm just trying to understand. We purposely didn't direct water here, so water's going in other places, and so the only water that would have the potential of running down here would be surface. You know, that's right on that edge of the bank.
Any super heavy rainstorm could be hitting that
So,
soil.
right. So that's what I'm saying. So it would have to be completely saturated that it would, you know, slough off like that.
I think as long as the new soil is covered with that mat, that would help protect it from a rain event.
We're trying to get right. I mean, it would be, we have requirements during construction for matting over certain slopes and, you know, for control before vegetative cover. We have erosion control barriers down gradient of that, as a precaution. Yeah. And we frequently grade new slopes, 2-to-1, 3-to-1 with all new material, and it may not be on in an instance exactly like this, but there's certainly potential for that soil to get saturated and slough off, and don't usually see that other than instances where there's stormwater flows and sheet flows being directed into it. But we do have, there are protections built in, hopefully.
I think maybe we just need to see a drawing of how this is going to be all tied together to understand. I mean, in my mind, I'm picturing that there's just sort of like this drop off, right? So how are you going to smooth all of that together so that you don't have this new soil just terminating 3 feet, 5 feet? I don't know how deep this thing is going to be at the point where you stop above the other native soil layer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it doesn't. I mean, I guess that particular part doesn't worry me too much because we do stuff like this in a bunch of projects. I mean, we don't new topsoil over existing material on grades that slope in a direction, and unless it's a very odd interface, you're putting some real sandy material over a clay material or something where there's a real change in sort of media. These are two similar soils blending together. Don't usually see much issue.
So do we know what the soil is going to be that would be placed here?
I mean, we've got specs in at least on the drawings that require, certain quality. But if you want some additional information, we can provide something. It would be standard screened, topsoil. This is what we're proposing anyway.
Is the mat, I mean, I haven't looked at the specs yet, but is the mat towed in the bottom?
Yeah, I forget exactly what the detail is at the bottom, but there's a couple of different embedded details they show for the top and the bottom, and then there's these sort of staples that get inserted in along the way. So we can make an attempt. Yeah, it was more, I just didn't know how far to take that and how, what.
Yeah, because we need to understand how far you can reach down from the top, because it doesn't seem like it makes sense to clear more area to get equipment down there. Right? So you tell us, what can you do from the top of slope working down? What shape's that going to look like? How's it going to tie together?
Yeah, I guess if I had to guess, I would say it's probably going to be somewhere around 25 or 30 feet, probably the length of an excavator arm. I can't imagine that they're going to get anything with a longer reach than that. So that would be my guess. So we can, assuming an excavator backs all the way up to the edge of that slab and can reach over and, camp stuff down. I would imagine that's probably about as far down without getting a crane in there that we have to reach. So we can try to do some, math and figure out how far that is in cross section or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Ask a question about the old drainage pipe. So Jeff, are you removing the drainage pipe and cleaning all of that debris, as Dan had said?
I mean, in that swale, the drainage pipe it's an 8-inch clay pipe, so it's broken, and the larger sections we can certainly pick up and take out, but I mean, a lot of it's just broken into smaller pieces. So that's all it is. There's no other debris that a lot of rocks have fallen out of the hill into the bottom, but I didn't see much else. There was no concrete or anything else that I really noticed other than maybe right up against the building, but that would all, we can try to obviously take any of that material out that we can, but it's mostly just that clay pipe sticking out.
And the reason I ask is because on the original plan, it says you're gonna crush it and bear.
Once you're into the site, yeah. So when they demolish that slab, the easiest thing for them to do will just be to smash it in place and backfill everything and compact it so there's no pipe there anymore. Because it's a clay pipe, it won't do anything or go anywhere. There's nothing hazardous about it. Rather than try to chase it and dig up, its entire length, they can just crush it in place and bury it.
We had also asked, I think last time, for clarification on phasing and how in particular, how stormwater systems were going to be brought fully online for various phases if for some reason later phases weren't completed. Was that submitted with the additional information?
No, I guess what we provided was this, just sort of outlining, what we had presented previously in terms of how they would construct it. I guess the only way, if the only way to separate this at all would be as if they constructed phase one and phase two. Phase one would include the new porous asphalt on the left side of the page. If nothing else happens, that existing stormwater system would still there'd be two catch basins on site that are still connected. Imagine, all those proposed buildings wouldn't be there. It would just be what you see underlaid in gray. So that wouldn't change at all. As soon as they start construction on one of those phases, they're going to have to commit to finishing the project. There's no other way to do it, really. Because that old system will come offline as soon as that construction is done, and there's really no other way to. We're not reusing that, so I think that would be the only real way to separate the two. You couldn't build porous asphalt for 3/4 of that and still leave part of the system in place, because it wouldn't function at all. It wouldn't work for what's left.
I'm not sure I followed all that. Are you saying if for some reason they can't complete phase 4, they can't complete 3 and 4, that they're not going to be able to have a functioning system?
No, I'm saying there would be a functioning system for what was built, which would be phase 1.
Mm-hmm.
The existing system, except for what was demolished to make way for phase 1, would still be in place. That outfall, those catch basins, that are.
What was the point at which you said they would have to commit to finishing the project?
Once they started phase 3.
So if they can't do phase 4 because they run out of money, we have a problem?
They could put porous asphalt in for just, if you can picture phase 4 not happening and there just being a single ring road, a horseshoe shaped road,
Mhm.
yes, that could function. That would take the existing system offline. That could function, yes.
There would just be like a little corner of existing asphalt.
And they would demolish all of that. Yeah, there would be no need for that. That would all come out.
And then this is all grass, right?
Right. So they just everything would be demolished. They would just seem to restore that side of the site.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then I think the last open question, unless Ava, you have anything else on your list, was the question of whether we feel like we need a peer review for the forest statement, as we had talked about as a potential. Last time we were going to revisit it after we had the back and forth with the engineer's comments. And we, of course, have not seen fully the responses to those comments yet. So I don't know where folks are on that thinking.
Yes, I'm also wondering, depending upon what y'all come up with in terms of the slope stabilization, if we need peer review for that, like geotechnical aspect. Not in any way yet convinced that the slope will be stable based on what has been provided so far, and we're not. slope stabilization experts, at least on it.
Mhm.
I think, if the maintenance is done on the porous pavement, I'm more comfortable than I was, 4 weeks ago. And have better, the
Yeah.
reading and things, a better understanding. As long as the maintenance done, it looks like it's a workable plan.
Agreed.
Is that general consensus? Did the city engineer have concerns?
Specifically around the porous asphalt.
It seems like most of our concerns were around the separation issue.
Yeah, I think her perspective, what she iterated to me verbally, is just that she's not a porous asphalt expert. And that she doesn't select it for many city projects because of the O&M concerns.
Mhm.
But that she didn't, she would leave that to a porous asphalt expert.
Okay. And as far as we know, the planning board is amenable to making some discussion about the maintenance of the porous asphalt part of the homeowner documents as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
So assuming that contingency, is everyone comfortable not doing a peer review with this?
I think I'm good with that.
Yep.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Is there anything else that we missed?
I don't think so. So we're waiting on, just to say like all together, we're gonna look for a plan of the gully,
Mhm.
a drawing of the gully, a geotechnical report of the slope.
Or some other documentation? I mean, I'm not telling you it has to be a
Yeah.
geotechnical report, but we need to be satisfied that we're okay there.
Which will include information about infiltration structures that are within 50 feet of the slope.
Mhm.
That will be part of that. Did the commission want revisions to the snow removal? Want the snow out of the riverfront area? Or did we decide that that was too niche of a circumstance?
It seems ill-advised to me to put snow in those areas, but I don't think it's the primary concern here.
It's not gonna have much sand in it.
We hope not.
Better not.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Better not. And that's what I have. Information about the restoration. Oh, yeah.
Calculations
Thank you.
of restoration.
Yep, and then the updated H&H report that has the calculations that go with the updated plan.
For the infiltrations that went, trenches that went from 2 feet to 1 feet.
Mhm.
1 foot.
And I had also asked about the surface velocities associated with that
Yep.
catastrophic failure example.
Yep, and then right, the updated restoration and mitigation drawings.
Yep.
Right, so good, yeah, 5, 7, 6, 7.
Right.
Would you like to continue to July 28th, Jeff, or do you need more time?
The one that gives me pause would be the slope stabilization, just because I don't know what that is gonna
Mhm.
take, or who else I know, go to or do it. So, and I'm gonna be away on the 28th. So August 11th would be the
August
next one.
11th.
Yep.
I guess that's probably what we need to do.
Do I have a
Motion to continue to August 11th.
All those in favor?
Right.
Motion carries. Still be on the agenda on August 11th.
Great.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Jeff, will someone else be coming for 385 on,
Yes.
on,
Yes.
July 28th?
Yeah. 18, yes.
Oh, boy.
All right. Okay. Moving on, we have no request for certificates of compliance. Do we have updates on enforcement actions?
No, well, I guess I did want to open up a conversation around 50 Florence.
Mhm.
Basically, I just wanted to check in with the commission about, we have their updated invasive species management plan. They're planning on doing 6 applications this season. How often do you want, I mean, in their plan, they will be providing a report after each application. Does the commission want me to go out and look on a regular schedule to ensure that we're on task here?
Yeah.
A question for my clarification. You mentioned 6 applications. Over what kind of time period? How tightly spaced would these be in
Yeah.
time?
Yeah.
Day. 6 applications a day.
In case you can probably.
Make myself in trouble. See, no.
Yeah. So, they said monthly during the growing season.
That's from monitoring or for actual treatment?
Oh, yeah, thank you. You're right. Maybe they don't have it. I kept having to combine.
It looks like it's maybe 2 a year. Primary treatment in late summer, early fall, and then a secondary treatment in the spring.
Right, but what he said to me I have him quoted here on the initial application, Rich DeGurda, which I apologize, I can't track which of the 12 companies this is part of. But he said that the initial application was completed on June 16th. We expect a report. I haven't seen that report yet. The second application is scheduled for July 7th.
Okay.
And subsequent applications for 2025 shall follow on a 3-week schedule. For 2025, there will be 6 applications with 2 hand trims during the summer months.
Okay.
I'll follow up about that June 26th application report.
Yeah, as long as the reports are coming in, I don't feel like you need to go out there every time. I think if we keep an eye on it seasonally, because they have to do this for
3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I think if you are looking at it sort of at the end of a season to understand what's happening, or
Okay.
Yeah, what do you guys think?
I think that makes a lot of sense.
I think it'd be interesting to see it after maybe 2 weeks after the second application, just to see how, but see what it looks like.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to, but
If you've got time, feel free to. It would be curious to
See what works.
understand. I've not heard of that kind of frequency
Yeah.
before, but I'm kind of curious to see what it does. But
Yeah, if they are applying on the schedule that they said they
yeah,
would be, I can go back out around July 22nd.
okay.
I'm doing a bit, you can move a lot, but the only person I've heard say that they thought they had it under control and went up and cut it every day.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think it's pretty well under control. Okay.
That's all I have for enforcement action.
Okay. Open space updates.
Echodale West, Chris reported back, he said they did the majority of the Echodale site on June 25th, and he'll need another day to see it through to completion. And that he'll let us know when he finishes this round of applications.
Okay. Great.
I don't have anything on Borkowski. It may be time we're back in the waiting game state.
Okay.
So
Natural heritage.
with natural heritage. So I think what we sort of keep circling around is that it's maybe time for us to actually put an application together for natural heritage, propose a trail project.
Yep.
And then ask them to review it. I was sort of hoping, I'd gotten in contact with Mike Jones, the state intelligence. I was just hoping we could really get a conversation going so they could tell us.
Yep.
Because I think I am just concerned. I'm concerned that they are going to have concerns about, I'm concerned that natural heritage is going to have concerns about creating new mountain bike trails. Like the idea that we are creating more mountain bike trails when we're dealing with endangered species of data sensitive reptiles. And so the question of like, what does it look like where is the line between rehabilitating a trail system and creation of new trails, when just in my like initial conversation with Mike seemed like that was going to be the tone to strike.
Okay. Well, we can help wordsmith that to, because we're part of the thinking is to decommission some trails that are not maintainable or functional, right?
Right.
So we're not necessarily increasing the scope of trails, we're just shifting them about.
Right.
So I think we can figure out how to describe that effectively.
Yeah, are we in like in a neg scenario where we're not sure what to do about the trails until we know this,
Right.
but they're not
Yeah.
sure what to tell us before they can see what we're.
That's maybe why they haven't reviewed it.
Yeah.
I think they might not
And-
have reviewed it because they're just swamped.
Yeah, and they don't have an application sitting on their desk to force them to
Put it up
review
on
it.
the Schedule, time.
So we may have to do it in this order to get a real response.
So when we file, so I'll put together an application and it will be a joint NOI MISA filing
Okay.
because there's wetlands on the property. So we'll file that with ourselves. Have you all done that before?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cordell?
Yep. Oh, it was an RDA, but yes,
Okay.
2008.
You don't have to do it as a joint filing,
Right.
but I'm not sure if there's any reason not to.
Okay.
It's was a 60-day review if it's not, and a 30-day review if it is. Natural heritage.
You might be right. It is supposed to be faster.
Yeah.
So I do think it
That's
might be time, right? It might be time to bring it back to the NEMBA folks.
Yeah.
We also were gonna go look for the host plant. I was gonna spend some time out there looking for the host plant for the moth. So that they can, because this is the season when the
Yeah.
host plant for the moth is in flower. So to try to get the trail away from where the host plant of the moth is.
Okay.
But it might be time for NEMBA to propose, okay, staying on commission property or CR property.
Mhm.
Where do you want this initial trail to go? Like one trail,
Yeah.
just the uphill trail. And then we'll prepare the filing.
Okay.
I do the thing where I say the same thing in 2 weeks.
Sorry.
So Oxbow Associates, they did a thing, right?
Yeah, they did.
Did they? They didn't go looking for the others, for the data sensitive species. They didn't actually go looking for areas that species might be interested in, right? Or just
So they followed the trail that Jeff, the city planner, wanted to rehabilitate.
so it's a limited scope.
Exactly. And they said there's none of the like rocky outcrops, there's none of the like dens, there's none of the good dens, there's none of the good sunning spots along this section.
Yeah.
So we think this wouldn't be a problem
All right. So
if you did it outside of the active season or if you had someone on staff who could move them.
so there's one area that we know is probably okay, but
And it's unfortunately the unrideable area right now. It's the area that was messed with by the microburst.
Mhm.
So I think the current generation of riders, that was 10 years ago, has not a ton of familiarity, or there's mixed
Yeah.
familiarity with that
Mhm.
section.
So that section's okay, and then areas that are now actively used are probably. Do we presume that those are okay, or do we not presume that those are okay? Or do we not know? Are they unknown? Are they?
Well, if it's actively used already,
Yes.
we're not changing it.
Right.
So from a purely regulatory standpoint, it shouldn't be an issue. But I think we need to understand where the new trail would go to understand if there's like some balancing we need to do.
Yep.
We need to release some area over here because we might be impacting something over here.
So that's the question. Areas that are not currently trail
Mhm.
and we're not looked at by Oxbow.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that could be something that if we have a trail, like we might have to, I'll communicate that with NEMBA that like this trail might have to be substantially tinkered with.
Yeah.
And we might want to do another habitat evaluation.
Yeah.
We might want to hire in an habitat evaluation.
Yeah.
Natural heritage is feeling particularly nice. They'll probably want us to do that for that area.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. So we can plan on that. And we still have, $24,454 in the open space account. But I do think once we permit this project, we'll apply to CPA funds.
Yep.
To actually finance the project.
Right.
Along with whatever NEMA can contribute.
Sounds good.
And then the last open space update I have is I have new logos for Oliver Street.
Okay. So,
Actually, going back,
Oh, yeah.
I wonder, I think what we did last time is I think the planning board, like, I think we prepared an application and then the planning board, like, submitted it on our behalf. And
for CPA, you mean?
No,
Or
for
for-
the Conservation Commission.
Oh,
I don't remember exactly how.
That
it
sounds like.
Were you on the
Yeah,
board?
but I'm thinking that sounds like the way it's gonna be.
worked. Yes,
okay.
yeah, yep. Right, but that is, I mean, but, you know.
We also didn't have an agent, so I
Right,
think it
did
could
not.
probably come from,
Come from the planning department,
department,
probably.
sure.
Yeah, I'm sure Allison would put her name on that.
Yeah.
too. Yeah. That probably makes more sense than the
Yeah.
planning board.
Mhm.
Department, I mean, that's what I meant to say.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But back then with RDA and the community garden, it was, you know, we were a little uncertain about how to go about it.
That does mean that we'll probably want to delineate do a delineation. Right? For that NOI.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, we did delineation for community garden.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
We did it, right?
yeah, Melissa, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
community garden, no, I was
Community
thinking
garden.
of the other one.
Oh,
The,
you're thinking about the
this one,
vegetation.
Echo
Orchard.
yeah,
Oh,
Same
okay.
because we sort of did one for that too, but yeah.
Yeah, we did not do an RDA
There
or
was no RDA for it, but the
Yeah.
orchard. It's
Right.
supposed to be.
minutes, right? Yep, but we did do an RDA. Community garden. Did do a delineation. And such.
Okay. I mean, when we get towards that stage, yeah, I may look for some support on that stage of it. Okay. All right, Oliver Street. So this was, this is the black and white sketch of how she integrated some of your notes around the star. All of the next versions have the star in them about Tom. It's obviously not, I mean, I think like the river coming off of Mount Tom, I don't know, it's
Mhm.
interpretive, so we can,
Yep, okay.
we can change it a lot. But a couple things she said, after receiving feedback for this round, I'll include Easthampton Conservation Commission, the next designs for like font and location. She's imagining the brown of the logo, I'll show you the next ones with colors, being the bare wood of the sign,
Mhm.
unless we're using a different material. So including like the trees actually being the wood of the sign. And then she wanted to know, well, I'll show you the photos and then we'll look at the rest of her questions.
So the brown is wood,
That was her vision, yeah.
the big star.
If we asked for the star, I don't remember asking for the star. I think
Yeah, go ahead.
We thought it might be a helpful motif to make it recognizable as Mount Tom. It does feel very large. And a little,
Like the green.
Yeah, put a Grinch on there. I'm not serious if anybody's actually listening.
Maybe instead of a river, she could just have a pond in the corner at the bottom.
are they're all the same design, just different colors? Is that what's happening right now?
Well,
Okay.
some things are slightly changing, but yeah, mostly
But
the
mostly,
same.
it's, yeah, some
It's
size
mostly
ratios.
this.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think we can totally still, do we want to scratch the river?
I don't think we should scratch the river, but I do feel like the river should not be coming from the tippy top of the mountain down. It should be maybe wrapping around the mountain.
Well,
Okay.
We don't really have a river wrapping around the
no,
mountain,
we don't have.
but
No.
it should not be coming from the top of the mountain down, I don't think.
Totally.
I also feel like, I don't know if you have the other ones handy, the shape of the mountain is less recognizably
changes,
Mount
right.
Tom as the one that we were like, you can tell that's Mount Tom.
With the three towers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I can grab those.
yeah, that's where we got to the star, was the three towers were there, and we're like, we know exactly what that is. If
Right.
we really want to show like
Show three
security
towers.
infrastructure up there, so we said, well, maybe the star. That's how that happened.
I see.
Okay,
And the shape of the mountain has changed.
Yeah, it seems like it.
that makes sense. I think she pulled the shape from a different one.
Okay.
Let me pull up the other ones. How many, she wanted to know how many colors total that we wanted to have on this?
Probably 3 tops, and
Yeah, I would say three.
Okay.
not counting the brown.
Right.
State park sign white, blue and green, I guess.
It was this one, I think.
Yes.
They're
Yeah,
much more
that's much
recognizable.
more Mount
Yeah,
Tom.
the shape of the mountain is better than that.
And I like the trees. I like the way the trees are there.
Yeah, me too.
The sun could come away and a small star could go on.
So we want something like this one, small star, no sun.
Or at least
I don't know.
smaller sun.
Yeah.
The sun's kind of huge.
It was actually over there.
Right, and that was our problem.
Yeah.
That was our problem last time. This is the one with no.
And that one, I think we felt like was a little bare, but maybe she's only got ECC and we wanted to be spelled out Easthampton Conservation Commission, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that
Would fill the
would
top.
fill the top and it wouldn't feel empty,
There's no wetland on this. That's the one.
right? So maybe there's a river that needs to wind around the base of it. I don't know what that
You
looks
could
like.
bring in a
Or the
small
pond, right?
stream halfway down.
Yeah, or the pond.
Yeah. And it would almost be evocative of the watershed leading to Nashawana Pond, too.
I mean, from like around here, Hal?
Yes.
We want Broadbrook.
That's
You
what
want
I'm.
Broad Brook.
Is that the right one? Did I get that right?
Flowing, Hal, are you imagining like down this way or are you imagining down this way?
Oh,
That's where the log cabin is.
yeah. I don't have an answer for you.
Okay.
You got to a level of refinement that my brain hadn't gone to yet.
But we want like a stream.
Yeah.
Or the edge of the pond would be okay.
Yeah.
That lower corner.
Edge of the pond and the foreground.
It's in Easthampton. We have part of it.
Both.
I mean, could there be like a little loop that looks like the Oxbow at the bottom? Or
Mhm.
the bottom right
Down
down
here.
here. I don't know, something.
Copy the view of Mount Tom from Thomas Cole. You know.
Okay, so I'll bring her back to this one.
I think so.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think the shape
Yeah.
is much
And
more.
with a small star.
With a small star. Okay. Small star. And then can we,
I'm not on board with the star, but
Did we also talk about
What are we?
cliffs?
Having what?
More like jagged cliffs? Did we say that last time?
have you guys seen those poem anywhere, like Blue Willow, invitation, cups that, you know, it looks like the Blue Willow style, but then you look close and it's like aliens and robots and stuff.
I will say one thing, I do feel like, I remember when we looked at these, we thought it was hard to get an image of like what the color of like what the trees, they looked kind of like, I don't know, creepy to people. Like, I do think that comes through a lot better when you see them with color.
Yes, agreed.
You can like see the vision more.
Yep.
Do we like the idea of the brown as the sign with these kind of so that being the sky with some kind of spotches of color?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other notes on this? We'll go to a good one. Yep. Melissa.
Yeah.
It's possible she has a slightly different sensibility than the rest of the commission, you know, like with the big sun, big star. Yeah. All right. Okay. That's what I got on Oliver Street.
All right. Plans updates.
Yeah. Okay.
What you were talking about.
I've got a few. I guess I'll just like highlight for the commission. I haven't done enough diligence because I just got back from vacation today, but Pleasant Street Mills, there's a bunch of stuff floating around in the public sphere about DPW did some maintenance of those infiltration basins. They mowed the infiltration basins down behind Eastworks, and people, there's a lot of public discussion and outcry about that. So that's
I
something I'll
believe
be
they're required to be mowed.
Yeah,
So,
I think I saw that.
totally. So that's just something that you may see floating around, and the mayor and the executive assistant of the mayor are sending those things my way, and so
Okay.
we'll just keep that on today's list.
Yes. What's the issue?
The concern is just that they were functioning as like little wetlands, or that was how people engaged with them, and that their vegetation was crushed.
No shortage of opinions around here, are there?
Okay, and that is what I have on that one. Coming down to Nashawanic Pond, the herbicide treatments, that's C. So the treatment happened. Gary Golas gave us the report. Let me pull it up.
any surprises?
Didn't sound like it. This was his pre-report. Oh, maybe I only have his pre-report. Where is his post? I'll get that from him. He did ask, okay, in an email to me, he said he had spoken with Cassie about, in reference to the pre-construction, condition 18, it states that DO is to be measured not more than 3 days following treatment events. I mentioned to Cassie that 3 days is too soon. Decomposition has just begun to use DO, but it is just beginning. Allowing additional time for DO to be consumed in the decomposition process would give a more accurate amount of DO consumption. Perhaps 7 to 14 days post would be a better time frame.
I know you and I had a conversation about this a while back with respect to a different project that was pending, and
I
we were like,
remember this on.
we really don't know the answer to this.
Yeah,
So I know that Gary
Gary should.
does.
Answer, yeah.
I am more than willing to take his advice if
I would
others
say
don't have
yes,
concerns.
say yes.
okay, great. So I guess I'll reach out to him and have a conversation, and then I'll write it. Does this feel like a minor change to the order? Okay, so I would issue this as a minor change to the order. Yep. Great. Okay. I've been dropping the cyanobacteria monitoring reports that we get from CRC that include 4 locations in Easthampton in the folder. But there was a false alarm at River Thread. I don't know if you all caught that. That was a false alarm. The public health office issued it based on like color and odor. Yeah, exactly. But then it came back low.
Okay.
So our ponds are doing well this year.
You said river thread, and on that graphic it said rubber?
Yeah, sorry,
thread?
rubber thread. Yeah,
Same.
that was, I
Okay, thank you.
spoke wrong. Yeah, I don't know where swimming pond and kayak pond are, but they're struggling
Me either.
somewhere in the watershed.
In town or other towns?
No, this is throughout the Connecticut River, Massachusetts Connecticut River watershed.
Okay.
Great. Okay. 11 Ferry Street. I signed the building permit. The subrecipient, I think I did I tell
One
you?
Ferry Street?
One Ferry Street.
1 Ferry Street, yeah,
Yep.
sorry, 1 Ferry Street, track 2, which is
Yep.
going to be for the building of the building called 11 Ferry Street.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
And I think I may have given this update to the commission last time that I signed the building permit. The subrecipient grant agreement made it through the city's attorney, and so it was like good to go. And so we now have it in writing in like a whole bunch of ways, but Peter Serafino, before I signed it, before I had the chance to sign it, like gave this I had it in writing, everything the commission had discussed, all the conditions, but he really like went into, this is obviously his wheelhouse, but he went into all the intricacies of the funding. So that's also now in the file. So we're all very intertwined.
Great.
109 Everett is the next one I have, or wait, let me see. No, I don't. Okay, 109 Everett Street.
Yep.
I received an as-built from them. And I just got that today. What letter?
I think it's cute.
Yeah.
He said everything is per plan with the exception of the electrical service going to the chapel area, which is marked up.
And it looks like that is stamped and signed. So I believe we need a site visit with the city engineer to confirm, correct?
Okay, great.
I think that's it for
Stormwater
requirements for stormwater, but if you could just double check.
Great. Yep, I can do that. And then when that, will that go under the section of our agenda that's like requests for this certificate of completion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. All right. And I went back today and just took a look at the rutting areas and they look like they've grown in. Grass grows fast. Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then from Hilltown, I did another they'd finished demolition and they're starting construction. So I did another pre-construction site visit for the construction of the playground and all the wattles were still there and intact.
Great.
So that looked good. We got,
Didn't waddle away.
they didn't waddle away. Just for the commission, we have more, these were drawn by the class of third graders. And so the text will be in the center. These were the selected
These are for their
ones.
signs?
These are for their
Awesome.
signs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the head of school who came and spoke to us, Chris, was really excited to tell me that he's like, it's so wonderful. They're going to honor so many things because the third.
Put them on our logo.
I was gonna say, that we should have them.
The third grade teacher, Nan Childs, is like a huge wetlands person and she's retiring this year.
Oh, wow.
And like I first met Nan in a vernal pool in like the dead of night, watching Big Night many years ago. So it's very dear, and this was like her class that did that. So
That's very cool.
Something about third grade science teachers, they're a special breed.
Yeah.
I think everyone's had a good one.
Yeah.
so they're very sweet
Yeah.
and diverse,
Yeah.
representing a variety of creatures.
Very nice.
So very nice.
Okay.
All right. I don't have any minutes for you. Oh, actually, wait, one thing on Hartnett Manhan.
Yeah.
I got a note from Beth. Almost all the sycamores are doing all right. And said, did I give you guys this update last time?
I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
You showed us pictures.
Okay, excellent. And the piece about that the invasive plants seem to be worse on the closed beach this year.
Mm.
I think, or maybe did just you and I speak about that? Did the whole commission?
think
You
it's-
told us.
Okay.
Here, yeah.
All right, cool. I did, just because I was already speaking with Matt Verson, I just asked him, I was like, what would you do, as a pesticide applicator, for multiflora? Because they were thinking about smothering the multiflora.
Oh, right.
And he was like, I don't think smothering it's going to get you that far. It'll just come back. He was like, I would use glyphosate right up to the river.
Mhm.
But he was like, I wouldn't, because of the Manhan and the polygon, that it's part of, he was like, he had some studies for me about it not having effects on fish, that's been studied quite well, but the mussel piece would be the thing to research.
Okay.
Anyways, I don't need to do New England Forestry Foundation's research for them, but
Yep.
just in the spirit of collaboration.
Okay.
That's where we're at with that.
Sounds good. All right, so no minutes tonight. Wetlands ordinance, the working group did meet, was that 2 weeks? Yeah, it was the day after our last meeting. And we have another working group session coming up in a week or two.
Yeah, July 22nd.
Okay, so still making our way through, sort of negotiating some edits based on review from planning department. Definitely making some progress there. So that's it for the update for the moment.
Other updates I just have, Mass DP has a new wetlands education website. So it's not fully complete yet, but that's been sent around. It's about time they had a better website. So I think that's great. Great improvements on the state level. And then I guess I just want to flag for the commissioners, I have not yet fully read it, but there is a bill, the Mass Ready bill, that includes some changes to the Wetlands Protection Act. It's certainly relevant for conservation commissioners to know about. It's a 51-page bill. I'm going to try to read it this week, but obviously you aren't required to. MACC is doing a lunch and learn series on Thursday that I'm expecting to be really, really informative about it. So
You know if they're gonna record it?
they often do. I think they do record their lunch and learns, and then they post them to the website.
Yeah.
And they're all free, so you can find them on the website.
And the primary focus, as I understand it, is streamlining permitting, particularly for restoration oriented projects. So I know one of the big focuses is not on the WPA, but on Chapter 91, which tends to be the most onerous for projects that need it, and trying to figure out how to make it easier for restoration projects to get through that.
Yeah, it has some really, again, not having read the text of it, like it has, like the CEO of Mass Audubon signed on, Nature Conservancy signed, like kind of all the big name conservation organizations signed on.
Yeah.
So I don't think we have to be super concerned that it's going to slash.
No, this has come out of a lot of working groups by conservation organizations like the two you just mentioned, and other grant funded efforts around the state to do exactly this, to try and streamline permitting for restoration. So everybody's very excited that this is actually this far along at this point.
You just repeal Chapter 91. It's like, if the mosquito went extinct, would anybody really care that much? Anyway.
But then we have like docks everywhere. We'll be able to throw a boat.
It's still together.
I don't know. All right. Do we have a motion? Return.
Motion to
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
It is 7:53. We are concluding this meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. Our next meeting will be July 28th at 6 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.